Okay, we're live. Good morning. Some more language teaching content, some activities, some thoughts, some reflections on what's going on in my classroom, stuff I'd like to share with you, what's gone well, what's not gone so well. I'm a big believer in sharing mistakes as well. You know, it's far easier to disconfirm something than it is to confirm. So if I can share things that have not worked, it might be, restricted to a specific context. It might be actually a fairly general across-the-board rule. It's going to be really helpful knowing where other people have failed and what not to do. But today, I've had a really, really positive Year 11 French lesson, and the irony is that on Thursday, it was a nightmare lesson with 2 or 3 students in that class. And I don't know what's happened. I haven't really changed. In fact, I'm very tired this morning, but they just came to the lesson ready to learn. Now, I had a little opportunity this morning to do 5-10 minutes of brainstorming about creating resources. I didn't actually in the end up using those resources. I had an existing kind of worksheet activity that I wanted to go through. But the first lesson from today is figuring out different strategies and then getting comfortable with delving into one resource more deeply. Specifically, finding opportunities to get more listening out of a single text. So what I had this morning is, I can bring it up, is I had a text about the environment. You can see just below l'environnement et moi, French environment lesson. And what worked really well was having a starter activity that the students could come in and just get on with straight away. It was really simple. It was just match these sentences to the images. That got everyone in, had a few stragglers, and then we got off to the races with, off the top of my head, it was 5 tweets, all about the environment, about different things, solutions, I think, to environmental problems. And I read through it again, and then the third time I said, right, now this time I want you to follow along with your stylus or your pencil. And I read it through again, and then got them to simply match the tweets to, I think it was some hashtags that kind of summarized. It was actually quite a nice format, a very different format to the hashtag that summarized that tweet the best. And I drew quite a few lessons from that today, and I drew quite a few lessons from my prep. And actually the success of the lesson has then informed some of my ideas that I had beforehand for creating, a good resource. So the first thing, I've got some very rough, this might be helpful as well for just like content and worksheet creation. I'm a big believer, keep the main thing, and the process doesn't have to look pretty. No one's going to see this. No one's going to see this. So I don't need to have everything with capital letters and font 14 all nice and tidy. No one's going to see that, what's on the screen right now. What they will see is the finished product. So separate your creating from your editing, okay? So when you're creating stuff, focus on being in a creative mindset, because every time that you try and edit something, you almost put a speed bump in the way of just being able to go out and create stuff. And I promise you, you will not only get tired, you will manage to achieve far less work in the same time. So, first things first, in terms of listening activities, and this is from this book. I apologise, excuse me. How Becoming an Outstanding Teacher by Steve Smith, specifically chapter 5, which is Enjoying Sounds, and it's all about listening. And it doesn't really matter what I think, but I agree with Steve Smith that listening is not only really important, but actually should be a foundation stone of the language classroom. And as a result, if we start off every language lesson through the lens of maximize listening, we end up ticking off a lot more language skills by default. If we've got a transcript and we have it as a listening activity, reading skills will improve as well. Okay, so that's my starting point. I want to maximize listening in this particular lesson. So starter activity, matching the words to the pictures, matching the vocabulary. How am I going to be doing that? How am I going to maximize listening? I'm just going to keep repeating those sentences. I'm going to use, that ubiquitous phrase in French, qu'est-ce que c'est, qu'est-ce que c'est, qu'est-ce que c'est, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, comment dit-on? And then the students just get used to hearing French, even though I'm repeating myself. I might change my tone, I might change my speed, I might be pointing. I'm making it slightly different, but the bulk of it is the same. I'm repeating, in this particular instance, it might be 8 pictures and 8 phrases. All right? And then I'm picking the boys out. What's this? All in French. Next step, and again, this is part brainstorming. I'm putting ideas out there. I'd love your feedback. But I am a big believer in having the transcripts. I don't understand why in the lesson, when we're not doing a specific assessment, we deny students transcripts. We take away really important scaffolding for activities on, I would argue, one of the most difficult language skills, which is listening. Again, we go back to Stephen Krashen's X+1. Most listening skills, honestly, X+2, X+3, they're really stressful. We need to increase the accessibility, lower the bar for boys to be able to access and enjoy the listening activity. So, we're not cheating. We're making a very, very difficult activity suitably easy, suitably accessible. So, transcript on 1 page. Here, for example, here's the short l'environnement et moi. And we've got 6 shortish sentences. I mean, these are kind of short enough to be tweets, And in this particular activity, we've got some pictures, okay? And low prep, I could just draw some infinitive French sentences, and then they can match them as part of the starter activity. That would work. Again, find a way to be more efficient and to stack, Don't try and reinvent the wheel all the time. And then I've just brainstormed some activities here for what I could put into this initial transcript activity. This transcript, this one below here, that's going to form the basis of a lesson, maybe even 2 lessons. I mean, there's a lot of writing here. That's by no means 1 lesson. That's a lot of lessons. Mind for vocab. That's a good idea. Again, in my experience, you've got to measure what sort of class you're with. If they're highly motivated, then mining for vocab. I love just the idea of mining. Have like a little dwarf emoji or something with a pickaxe. Some classes that are less motivated, less able. God bless them. Maybe they're just not able compared to others. They would find it either difficult or they would actually not engage. And actually, if we think about our job as a teacher, part of it is keeping momentum. So again, just 5 minutes thinking before we send worksheets out to classes. Think through: are there any problem boys in this class? Are there any boys for whom this will be excessively difficult? That even just giving them the lack of restraint. Find vocab that you find difficult. Overload. I've come across that throughout year groups. Some boys really, they genuinely need a word list that they find. Sometimes we've just got to work with what we're given. So, mind for vocab. Also, find the French expressions. Now, this might be random. This might be an opportunity to recycle. And this might be an opportunity to pick out a specific learning point, maybe verbs, verb phrases, maybe, let's say, environmental vocabulary, specifically the solutions. It really is the world is your oyster there. We're talking principles. What I like about the idea of recycling vocab in an expressions list is that you're deliberately giving an opportunity for pupils to, yes, on the one hand, recycle I'm repeating myself, recap existing vocab, but particularly for that lower ability, middle ability. What a shot in the arm. Hey Toby, you know these words, well done. And I can't underestimate the importance of getting another opportunity, you know, one more repeat frequency, if you will, to get vocab back in front of your brain, to just refresh it in your mind. That's massive. That's massive. Let's not overlook that. Sometimes if we go slower, we go faster. Read aloud. Again, we've got the transcript. This isn't a test. You're not cheating by helping them learn. And honestly, my assumption, certainly as a trainee teacher, and honestly the first year or two, I thought, this is way too easy for them. Yeah. No, it's so hard to improve your listening skills. It takes such dedication and such time that to not give them the sufficient help, you're basically wasting your time. You're demoralizing your students, or a significant portion of your students, and actually they're not improving in the way that they need. You know, maybe your higher ability pupils are getting the answers correct, but that doesn't actually mean that you've consolidated and cemented the learning and the skill. So reading aloud, do that once, do that twice. Maybe input another activity immediately after that, and then find an alternative format for a read aloud, which kind of is still achieving the same aim of you simply reading the text aloud and the boys hearing it. You could chop the text up. You could reorder the sentences. I haven't put that one there, but a jumbled order, reorder it. And you are giving yourself as a teacher an excuse to repeat and repeat and repeat. Imagine their little brains are sponges. You want to keep putting that sponge into the water, into the water, into the water, to the point where it is so soaked and sodden with the language that it's filled with you know, with the words and the phrases and the vocabulary and the grammar. Personally, I think that's a no-brainer. But it takes a little bit of planning, because certainly with teenage boys who I teach, they lose interest, lose motivation, they get cynical, you know, so you're just reading aloud for the third time. Yeah, well, you know, if I change the activity ever so slightly, tricked you, got you. Another opportunity, you know, here's immediately after, here's the next idea, here's an example of doing that. What's the next word? What's the next word? I'm reading through the transcript. What do you think the next word is, guys? And they'll tell you. Or, what is the next word? Well, the next word's this. It's like, that's fine. Yeah, great. You spotted it. Brilliant. You might, if you've got a group for which this is appropriate, you might say, okay, what's the pattern behind all of the words that I've guessed? Maybe it's the verbs. Maybe it's the imperfect verbs. Maybe it's adjectives with an accent. I don't know. It's up to you. Next one, highlight the verbs, nouns, specific learning point. Again, you've got a transcript and you've given them another activity, and you're simply giving them, you might even just give them sections of the transcript, maybe just one paragraph, and you read it aloud. Highlight, right, I'll read it aloud again. You know, this time highlight something different. Find the synonyms. That is maybe something that can follow on with the French expressions. You put in some synonyms. You can also put in some total negatives. And all the time, you're giving yourself an opportunity to repeat a text. And reading aloud and hearing and reading, it's just such a valuable skill. It's so important. It's one of my pet frustrations as a teacher, is that the pace of learning is often dictated by a scheme of work instead of actual pupil progress. Because actually the truth is, and as Dr. Conti has said numerous times, what we set for an entire year, or rather what we set for an entire term, that really should be what you do in an entire year. And you should be delving deeper into that topic and ordering it and packing it with far more variety for the different cognitive stages that the pupils are at in terms of the language learning. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing that? Find the synonyms. I think we'll stop there for this video, because otherwise it's just going to go on and on and on. You know, my hashtag short and snappy and never is. But there I've given you some ideas for one lesson with maybe one transcript and 5-6 minutes of prep, because copy and paste, hey? And you have done barely any prep, and yet you're guaranteeing a ton of learning, because you're ticking the box of what should happen. Students hear language, students read language, students manipulate language in a way that's accessible, and they listen again, repeat, repeat, repeat. That is a recipe for success in the MFL classroom. So if you do that, you will see success. That's an aspect of this channel, I hope, is that we explore on the go the principles of success, we distill them, we simplify, so that we keep the main thing, and we see results for sensible effort and investment. Okay, that we're not flogging ourselves for no purpose. Yeah, we keep the main thing. So we'll stop there, and this video will probably be using transcripts effectively, you know, getting the most out of a single resource. I will say, and I'll do another video another time that expands on this, you can get around the quite understandable complaint from students that we're just repeating the same transcript. By copying and pasting the transcript, and let's say that transcript is 100 words long, I kid you not, change 7 words. Change 5. Add in 2%, totally new, just for a bit of spice. It's a different text. That justifies it in the mind of the student. It's that easy. It's no longer the same transcript. And actually, that gives you an extra activity, excuse to type like a troll, okay? Spot the differences. There you go. I can't spell. All right? This job is hard at the best of times. It's hard with all of the background context of marriage, which, you know, is wonderful, but difficult. Relationships with friends and family. Again, they're wonderful, but it's difficult. Newborn children, they're wonderful, but they don't sleep when you want them to sleep. Toddlers, they're wonderful, but they add more stress to your life, and stress isn't necessarily bad. You know, we shouldn't abdicate or shirk responsibility and stress. Sometimes we should take on stress in order to do something meaningful and valuable. My cry is that we as teachers, we keep the main thing. We focus on that which got us into the classroom, into teaching in the first place. And we are ruthless in getting rid of those pointless, meaningless burdens that do not help us achieve those goals. Yeah? I don't think that's controversial at all, but I know that we teachers are gluttons for punishment, and we put up with a lot. Hey, we're very demanding. We're a demanding demographic, but we put up with a lot. And I'm just calling you guys, and myself, to be smart. Make this job as easy and enjoyable as possible, whilst keeping the main thing. All right? I hope that helps. It's just a reflection that I feel bold enough to share with you. It's a conviction. And I am enjoying the innovation and the problem solving with all of these fun ways of simplifying what seems mystifying. You know, it seems overwhelming and impenetrable and difficult. And actually, thanks to people like Stephen Smith and Gianfranco Conti, head of departments that I've got, this job ticks all of my creative needs at the moment. And I really love that as well. And I suppose that's why I enjoy making these videos, is because this reflection, it's this video diary, is actually a process by which that I develop as a human being and as a teacher. And you get some comedy value out of it as well. But yeah, guys, have a great rest of the day. God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. All right, bye bye.